I recently finished reading all of Demon Prince Goes to the Academy, and I'd like to say I recommend reading it yourself. While my experience was kind of hampered since some of it was machine translated and other parts had a large gap in between translations since Reaper had to take their translations down a while back. It overall is a good read with interesting characters, a good story, and a pretty strong beginning. You really want to see what the main character does for the first few hundred chapters. The main plot of the story is pretty similar to the novel's extra in the sense that an author gets transported into their own works world and they basically have to live there and finish it off. The main difference between this story and the novel's extra is that the story is more fantasy focused and the main character I think is a lot more enjoyable to read about since he's a lot more unpredictable. Well, maybe not unpredictable, but he's a lot more wilder. Overall, it's probably my favorite retelling of the Korean Academy trope, where they get sent to a fantasy world that they recognize and they have to go to an academy and they perform well in the academy. It's probably one of my favorite editions of that trope, but that's not really that hard to do. It's an interesting read overall, and I really enjoyed it, but it does have its flaws, especially within the second half. The first half introduces characters. It spends a lot of time developing the characters and their relation to the main character, and you kind of enjoy it a lot. And I kind of wish that's the direction the entire story went. That it just continued the first half of the story, and then go into what happened in the second half. There will be a bit of slight spoilers, so this is your one and only warning. The second half essentially goes to shit. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It just goes to shit. Like going into the story. Oh god. Basically the worst possible thing that could happen happens, and the entire time it's just a lot of angst. You really want to see a good ending, but everything just keeps getting worse and worse. You see some shit goes down that really just makes your heartstrings pull a bit. It's like watching a car crash to an extent. But you kind of get used to it, and it just continues, and you're just like, okay, this is fine, I guess. But the thing is, it just all makes sense loosely. There are some parts where I feel like some shit just doesn't make sense, but that could just be due to the machine translations or me just not reading it for a bit, since, there was a bit of a pause between the last translated chapter and the next translations. And then it goes to its ending, and by the end, you just kind of enjoy. You're enjoying the work that you did. The world building has finally come to a close, really. And then the last final chapters, it just feels so rushed. Like, it just ends on essentially a cliffhanger. Like, god damn, this is so shit. It just seemed cut off. Nothing was great. The final relationships kind of just got fast forward, and only a few characters got their payoff, really. You kind of want to see more of the future. You want to get, like, the epilogue, and it's really not really much. So, I'm pretty sure it's titled Harem Story, so this will be a bit of a spoiler. I lied about that being the only spoiler warning, but goddamn, I think only half of the harem got any dialogue in the epilogue, and mentions barely anything for the other half. Like, some of the girls just got completely and utterly shafted, so you could tell the author was playing favorites. I personally think that the author couldn't finish the ending. Like, he probably had an agreement or something, and he just couldn't write any more chapters. And then just ends. It just ends on a cliffhanger. It kind of feels like if Naruto ended on some filler episode. But not the entire filler episode. It just ended on like half of the filler episode. Like, that episode of Naruto where there's that robot clone? Imagine if it ended like halfway through that episode. That's what it feels like. It's like shit. But yeah, it's overall a really interesting read. It's very entertaining. I highly recommend it. I feel like this is probably one of the better novels to come out in the Asian market. And yeah, I recommend it. I would rate this novel a Shooting Star Dragon because while it is a really good card, it has its major flaws, which in Shooting Star's case is any card that can send it back to its hand. And in this case, the ending just fucks it over. Holy shit. Yeah, that's really it for the Demon Prince Goes to the Academy. I recommend it. It's probably one of the best Academy novels. But fuck, I really wish it got the ending that it deserved.